I saw her before anyone else did. She was standing at the back of the venue, just inside the doors, wearing a pale blue dress like she was a guest, like she belonged there. But she didn't, because that was the first time I'd seen my mother in 19 years. I was mid-aisle, holding my bouquet, music playing, everyone standing, and suddenly, there she was. Hair longer, body thinner, older of course, but still her. Same sharp jaw, same frozen smile. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating, like my nerves had finally snapped and were conjuring ghosts from a past I'd buried so deep it almost felt made up. But she wasn't a ghost. She was real, and I froze. The music stopped before I did. Gasps spread through the crowd like a wave. Heads turned. My father, standing at the altar beside my soon-to-be husband, went pale. So pale, I thought he might pass out. He took a step forward. She didn't move, and that's when I knew. She didn't come for me. She came for him. Growing up, my mother was the villain of every bedtime story. My dad raised me alone. Said she ran off when I was 5, left one night and never came back. Said she met someone else, stole money, and disappeared without a single look back. I believed him. He never remarried. Never spoke her name unless I asked. Even then, his voice would get tight, like he was holding back something angry and bitter. She didn't want us, he'd say. She wasn't mother material. Some people just aren't built for family. It stuck with me. I repeated those lines in my head like gospel. When other girls cried on Mother's Day, I stayed quiet. When people asked where my mom was, I told them I didn't have one. Not really. It was easier than explaining the emptiness. He did his best, I think. He worked 2 jobs, took me to school, paid for braces, never missed a parent-teacher conference. He made sure I had what I needed, and reminded me often that it was because he stayed when she didn't. By the time I turned 20, I had zero desire to reconnect. If she didn't care enough to write, call, or explain herself, then I didn't care either. Or that's what I told myself. Until I saw her standing in the doorway. Like a memory I didn't give permission to return. The ceremony didn't happen. Of course it didn't. There's no wedding when the bride walks off in a daze, followed by whispers and stares and the sound of her entire life cracking open. I locked myself in the bridal suite. My hands were shaking. My dress felt like it was choking me. And the worst part, I wasn't angry. I was curious. After all these years, after all that silence, why now? Why this day? And what did that look on my dad's face mean? It wasn't just shock. It was recognition. It was guilt. I stayed locked away for 2 hours. People knocked. My fiancé, my father, even the wedding planner. I didn't answer. But when my maid of honor whispered through the door, "She's still here. She wants to talk to you," I did something I never thought I would. I opened it. Because if she really came to ruin my life, I wanted to see the face of the woman who started the destruction 20 years ago. Her name was Leela. I hadn't said it out loud in years, but the moment I saw her sitting there, in a corner of the empty bridal suite, it came back like a taste I thought I'd forgotten. She looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe it was just that I wasn't 5 years old anymore. Same cheekbones, same voice, same perfume, faint, floral, expensive. She stood when I entered the room. Her eyes were glassy, but she didn't cry. She just stared at me like she was waiting for permission to speak. I gave her nothing. "I'm sorry," she said softly. It landed flat. 20 years. One word. That's what she led with. She took a step forward. I stepped back. "I know this is wrong," she continued. "I shouldn't have come today. But I didn't know how else to reach you. You had 20 years, I said. My voice surprised me. It was sharper than I expected. "You could have written, called, sent a letter, something." She nodded, shame in every inch of her posture. "I did," she whispered. "I tried. For years." I laughed once. "Cold." "No, you didn't." "Because I would have remembered." She looked up at me then, and something shifted in her expression, like she wanted to speak, but realized she'd have to break something first. "Your father intercepted everything," she said. That stopped me. "What?" "He changed your number, blocked mine, sent back every letter unopened. When I tried to see you at school, he had me removed." She reached into her purse slowly, like I might flinch, and pulled out a folder. Inside were photocopies of envelopes, dates, handwriting that looked like hers. Letters addressed to me. Letters I never saw. My heart thudded. I opened one, dated 2007. I was 10. "You probably don't remember much about me, but I remember everything about you." Another, from 2010. "Happy birthday, baby. I left a small gift at the front office. I hope they give it to you." Another, dozens. Some returned, some marked with notes in bold, impersonal ink. "No contact allowed." My mind was spinning. I sat down slowly, still holding the letters. Everything I thought I knew started cracking. I had grown up with one story, one virgin. She left. She ran away. She didn't want us. But now, I had evidence in my hands that maybe, just maybe, that wasn't the whole truth. Leela wiped her eyes. Still standing, still careful. "I made mistakes," she said. "I'll own that. I wasn't perfect. But I never left you." I was pushed out. My hands clenched. "Then why now?" I asked. "Why show up today of all days?" She hesitated. "I heard you were getting married, and I thought, maybe I had one last chance to tell you myself, before you made the same mistake I did." "What mistake?" I asked, voice low. "Trusting your father blindly." There it was. The crack in the story. The root of it all. And suddenly, I remembered how my dad flinched when he saw her. That look on his face, that wasn't fear, that was guilt. I stood up again, letter in hand. I don't know if I believe you, I said honestly, but I know you're not lying about these. She nodded. That's enough for now. We didn't hug. We didn't cry together. It wasn't a movie. But when she left, she looked me in the eye and said, "He didn't just take you from me. He took something else. And I think you're about to find it." Then she walked away, and I was left alone, dressed for a wedding that didn't happen, holding proof that my entire life might have been built on someone else's lie. I didn't go home that night. I needed air, space, a version of reality that wasn't collapsing in on itself. I stayed at a friend's apartment, still in my wedding dress, still holding the folder of letters my mother gave me. I read every single one. Some were clumsy, some overly emotional, some were just quiet. Simple notes saying she was thinking of me, but not one of them sounded like someone who'd vanished on purpose. And for the first time in my life, I allowed the thought to form completely. What if he lied to protect himself? Not me. I went home the next morning. My father was in the kitchen, acting like nothing had happened. Eggs, toast, 2 mugs of coffee. He looked up when I walked in. "I didn't expect you so early," he said. I held the folder out to him. He froze, took it, flipped through the pages. Didn't say a word. "You told me she abandoned us," I said. Still no answer. "You told me she never wanted me, that she left in the middle of the night." He closed the folder, set it down. "I did what I had to do," he finally said. That's when my stomach turned. No denial, no surprise, no guilt, just justification. "Do you know what she was like back then?" He continued. "Unstable, selfish. She couldn't keep a job. She drank. She made scenes. She wrote to me for years." He nodded. "And every time, I asked myself if it was worth the damage it would do letting her back into your life. After everything." "After what exactly?" He hesitated. "And that was all I needed." "Was it about me?" I asked. "Or was it about you?" He looked at me jaw tight. "Because you didn't just keep her away," I said. "You erased her. You rewrote the entire story." His hands were shaking now. Slightly. Just enough for me to notice. And then he said something that chilled me. "You were happy, weren't you?" Like that was the measure of truth. Like if I smiled enough, it meant the lie worked. That's when I realized. He didn't protect me. He curated me. Controlled the narrative, built a world where he was the savior and she was the villain in a story I was never allowed to read for myself. He didn't want me to be safe. He wanted to be right. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the folder across the room like part of me wanted to. I just said, "You should go." He looked stunned. "It's my house," he said. "No," I replied. "It's ours. And right now, I need you out of it." He didn't argue. He just grabbed his coat and walked out like he knew the lie had finally expired. That afternoon, I sat on the couch and stared at the wall. No wedding, no mother, no father I could trust. Just me, and a pile of letters from a woman I didn't know, but maybe should have. I picked up my phone and texted her one word. "Talk." The reply came almost instantly. "Always. We met in a quiet cafe 2 towns over." She picked the place, said it had good tea and terrible lighting, her idea of neutral ground. I got there first. She arrived 5 minutes late, wearing sunglasses and a coat that didn't quite fit, like she still didn't know how to take up space. Like she still wasn't sure she was allowed. But when she sat down, she looked me in the eyes. No makeup, no mask, just my mother. We didn't talk at first. She stirred her tea. I folded the napkin on my lap a dozen times. Finally, she said, "You won the real story." I nodded. She took a deep breath, the kind that carries 20 years of weight. And then she started. According to her, the night she disappeared, she was kicked out. My father had been tracking her, reading her texts, listening to her calls. He thought she was cheating. But she wasn't. She was trying to open a separate bank account. To leave him. Not for another man, but for herself. For me. "I didn't feel safe," she said, voice low. "He wasn't violent. He was careful, strategic. He didn't hurt me physically. He just made me small, dependent. Like if I ever left, I'd lose you." The night she finally told him she wanted out, he packed her bags for her and locked the door behind her after she walked out. With no lawyer, no custody, no plan. Just a threat. "If you come near her again, I'll make sure she forgets you ever existed." I wanted to argue, question her version, but deep down, I already knew. It tracked. It sounded like him. Not loud abuse but cold erasure. "What did he take from you?" I asked. She blinked, paused, then said something I'll never forget. "You. Not just physically, not just legally. He took my memory of her, rewrote her voice in my head, turned her into a shadow I was taught to be ashamed of. He used you as proof," she said. "Proof that I was unstable, that I didn't love you, that I was the problem." She looked away, and I let him, for too long. We sat in silence again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was mutual, cleansing. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out something wrapped in fabric. A necklace. Tiny. Gold. With my name engraved, the real one, not the version he shortened. "I gave you this when you were born," she said. "You wore it until the day I left. I found it in a donation box last year." I stared at it, heart pounding. It was mine. It wasn't a lie. I didn't forgive her that day, and she didn't ask me to. But we stayed. We talked. We let years of silence melt, not all at once, but enough to feel something shift. And when I got up to leave, she touched my arm and said, You don't have to pick sides. Just don't live inside someone else's version of you anymore. That night, I went home and packed a small bag, left my father a note. You told me she ran, but I think you just made sure I never followed. Then I left, not forever, but for now, to figure out who I was, outside of both of them. To reclaim my memory, I stayed with my mother for 3 days. It was strange, quiet. We moved around each other like two people trying to relearn the shape of a house after the furniture's been moved. She gave me space, cooked too much, asked before hugging me. I noticed the smallest things, how she still used the same shampoo, how she folded towels in thirds, how she hummed while doing dishes. All these little details that felt familiar, like echoes from a life I should have had. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was betraying my father. I felt like I was recovering from him. We didn't talk about the past every hour. Sometimes we just watched TV, or walked in silence, or shared bad coffee on her porch. But on the second night, I found a box in her closet. It was unlabeled, dusty, old. I almost didn't open it. Almost. Inside were photographs. Some of me, some of her, some with a man I didn't recognize. He wasn't my father. And yet, I looked like him. Same chin, same eyes. Under one of the photos was a note in her handwriting. Summer 2001. She finally called him Dad. My stomach dropped. I walked out of the closet and held up the photo. She paled. I thought he was my father, I said quietly. She sat down. You deserve the truth, she said. The man I knew as my father, the one who raised me, controlled everything, cut her out of our lives, was not my biological dad. He was her boyfriend after the divorce. The man in the photo, his name was Jonah, was her ex-husband. My real father. And he had died in an accident when I was 4. She never told me. And when she tried to explain it, the grief, the trauma, the panic of being alone, I didn't yell. I just shut down. I thought protecting you meant simplifying everything, she said. But you lied. I whispered. You both lied. She nodded. I know. I left the house that night. Not angry, not broken, just heavy. Because now the truth wasn't black and white. There wasn't a villain. There wasn't a hero. There were just two broken people trying to survive the aftermath of a man who wasn't even alive anymore. And in the middle of it all, me. The next morning, I woke up in my car, parked near the edge of a lake I used to visit with school. I stared at the water for hours, asking myself the same question over and over. If everything I was told was a lie, what's left of me? I didn't go back to either house for a while. I needed distance. From the noise, from the guilt, from both versions of myself, the one he raised and the one she lost. I stayed with a friend, took time off work, turned off my phone for 3 days. And for the first time in years, I stopped trying to make everyone else feel okay, because I wasn't okay, and I needed to sit with that. Truth is messy. You don't find it in a single conversation or a hidden box or a perfectly timed confession. You find it in the aftermath. In the days when you're too numb to cry and too angry to sleep. In the spaces where love used to live and where grief starts to grow in its place. Eventually, I texted my mom. Just one sentence. I need time, but I don't hate you. She replied, take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere this time. That was enough. As for him, the man who raised me, I didn't reach out. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I no longer needed an explanation. I knew the truth now, and that was more powerful than any apology he'd never mean. Weeks passed. I went back to my apartment, started therapy, changed the locks, changed my number, rebuilt myself from the inside out, not perfectly, not instantly, but piece by piece. And when people asked why the wedding didn't happen, I just smiled and said, because sometimes the universe makes space for the truth whether we want it or not. I saw my mom again a month later. Lunch. Just the two of us. No pressure. No expectation of healing everything. We talked about music, about work, about the things we still had in common. She didn't try to fix anything. She just showed up. And for now, that was enough. There are still days I wonder who I'd be if none of it had happened. If Jonah had lived. If she had stayed. If he hadn't rewritten my life page by page. But then I remember, I get to write the rest. And this time, no one else holds the pen. Not everything is perfect, but at least it's mine.